Cool. Alright, Willie, this is the explanation for tantalizing control, and some of the problems with it you've already mentioned in the email, and that's true. It's a somewhat lengthy explanation because there's a history to this effect, obviously. The initial effect was the 1 out of 52, where the cards are dealt in 2 piles of 26, and then one pile is split in half and so forth until you're left with just one card. Leonard Green was the first one, and then Darwin Ortiz did a take on it, and Jason England did a take on it. But the problem with the effect is that it's obvious that if you deal out all the cards and you keep dealing them all out, this depends on the position of one card, which in this case is the 22nd position, I think. And so the idea was there to not change, or apparently not change, the order of any of the other cards. In this case, you do change the order of the other cards, and you're right. It didn't come across as the sort of an effect that you would do on a tape. I mean, or that you would do for actual people on a tape. It doesn't come across like that. You can play. I do have it gives you actually a lot of many chances to interact with the audience by having different people choose a card, and you can do this quite entertainingly. Also, I only opened 2 decks of cards. One was a little bit old. My wife already told me it's a poor craftsman who claims his tools. But usually, if you do have a deck that's broken in, this one isn't. It doesn't faro too well. It did faro here, but anyhow, I tried the Alex Helmsley idea of using a nail file and sanding down the edges so that they're more amenable to faro shuffles, but whatever. If you do have a deck that you've broken in for faro shuffles, this is a fairly easy to do effect, and I do it for lay people. And I'm going to talk about the rhythm a little later. It starts off very slow by someone choosing a card. Now, what I did in the effect, I did a pass, but you can do whatever effect or whatever control you want. So you control the first one. For the second one, I did a top card cover pass. You control the second one via a top card cover pass. So you have 2 cards controlled. The last one, as I'm sure you saw, I used a side steal with squaring action and spread control, or spread camouflage move or whatever. And for the last one, which on the tape is quite visible, I did Alan Ackerman's bottom control, where you hold a break below the chosen card. You do a fan with all the cards above the break. You push back on the bottom packet. You pinch the top card, the top of the fan, and the bottom packet, and you rotate them counterclockwise and lift up anywhere on there, thus creating a break and bringing the chosen card to the bottom. It's a very nice bottom control. And then, as I'm sure you've also seen, I did the Vernon Hindu Shuffle transferred it or whatever. And so you have all the 4 cards on top. Now, to get them into position, this is by Paul Wilson, again on the Unreal Sessions. You shuffle 1 card on top, which is my favorite sort of false shuffle anyhow, because they seem to be really shuffled, but you do shuffle 1 card on top. And now you need to rearrange them 3. All you have to remember is 3, 1, 3. So you toss 3 cards, 1 card, and 3 cards on top, and you pick them back up. I've experimented with doing this in an overhand shuffle, just taking 3 cards, dropping another one, and dropping 3 cards on top of that, and then in a lift build sort of lift build adaptation, you bring them back to the top. But I have not found it to be as casual and disarming as just throwing them on the table. Anyhow, you just did that 3, 1, 2 as per Mr. Wilson's instructions. And now you need to give them an out faro and 2 in faros. But the first out and the first in can be essentially a slough off. So in other words, I mean, you can't have a slough off out faro, even though I suppose you could. You put it in there wherever, and an out faro is the same as a slough off actually. So you'd have the first out faro. The next one has to be an in faro. So you would think, well, maybe you can't do a slough off with that, but you really can. Because you do shuffle an in there, and provided that you take 1 more card from the top packet, that's the same as an out faro. So you can do that, and then what I did in the video, they bind. If they do bind, you just pick them up in your hand, and I just did a cut, just to pack whatever was above that extra card on top of the ferro. I just did that. So anyhow, so you have the first two, an out and an in. The last one does need to be perfect, so lighting is a factor, whatever. And you're supposed to do this like so, where you have a thin black line in between, and you can visually gauge the sizes of the two packets. So usually you should get it. If you do this with 4 aces, you have a key there. The key would be the 4th ace, but in this case you do it with unknown selections, and you shuffle them off. You shuffle them, you pair them together one more time. This is a very lengthy process, but you can keep it live with spectators and so on. But now, in the end, because now you deal out the cards, in the end, they might say, "Oh, wow, slow down. This is just way too fast for us." And the reason is because now you're changing rhythm, and you do this by counting out 2 hands of 26 cards. Usually this is somewhat boring, so I thought, well, obviously you have to say something. And also, I just deal as fast as I can, and this is the sort of thing that to a lay person may seem just as impressive as you're doing 2 aerials behind your back or whatever, or just pitching at a certain pace. To the lay people, it sounds seems very impressive. And at any rate, because of the setting, you've got one of those cards. Now you do this again, but this time you'll be, the first time you had to deal 52 cards, and I don't know, I didn't time this, but I'm going to say it was no more than 10 seconds or so. So you're dealing 0.25 seconds per card. Now you're going to do this again, but you only deal 26 cards. So if you really do this at speed, the hands seem to blur if you watch on. I've done this with shuffles, and anyhow, this is the second card. I've done this with shuffles, and people are just amazed if you can shuffle fast. To a lay person, this is as impressive as any flourish I've found. But anyhow, as far as the routine goes, the routine is done, almost done. You do this one more time, and that's one more of their chosen cards. And the last card you hide. Paul Wilson does it with one hand. I think you might as well do it with 2 hands. The last card should be here. So you have to hide this, and I think he does it. He does it like this. You can sort of do that, but then you don't quite see the index. You might just as well push up the top card and pull out the bottom card, and this is I think it's just as natural. There's no need for a one-handed maneuver here. Anyhow, so you're hiding that last card. Like I did in the performance, I said, well, now my chance of hitting your card is 0 if you can't see your card, and you just deal a top, and a double. The last one is you're just setting aside the 2 cards as 1, and this heap is sort of messy anyhow. Nobody ever is in a million years going to see that, because you immediately turn over that last card, and that's the card that came out of nowhere. And so before you say, okay, this is good for magicians. Obviously, if you don't know the positioning procedure, there's really no way to reconstruct this. But I would urge you to give this a try for lay people. If you have a deck that actually ferros well, number one, because what you can also do, you can try, if you wish, just one last little bit, you can try, if you wish, you can try a tabled ferro. And most people don't do a tabled ferro, because even if you can do a tabled ferro, it looks very studied. You have to make sure it's 26, 26, and then you have to get them both into perfect position, and then it's usually like this, and before the first cards start dropping, and then you miss maybe one on top. In this case, it looks very, very studied. In this case, but at the same time, amongst magicians, the folks that do a table ferro, they're sort of in their own ballpark. They're in their own league. So it's you're no longer playing the little leagues if you're doing a table ferro, as you well know. But in this case, you can try one with hardly any preparation at all, because if the bottom cards do not interlace properly, that's okay, because you're really only concerned about the top 13 cards or so. So and then you slop this off as you see fit. Anyhow, I urge you to try this, and I hope you enjoyed, and a few more things later. Bye.